My name is Dave Hollenbach, the host of From Embers to Excellence, a podcast that explores the many facets of leadership from the perspectives of some amazing people. We discuss the triumphs and failures that have shaped our lives and our leadership philosophies. I've found that it isn't whether we fail that defines us, but when we do fail, how we respond. Leaders dust off the ashes and use their failures as fuel to work harder and as lessons to come back wiser and stronger, more resilient, more determined, and more committed to excellence. Today I'm speaking with David Trogdon. He retired from the U.S. Army after 33 years of military service in 2015. He currently serves with the Hope Project as the chaplain. And forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but didn't you found the Hope Project?
I did, along with a couple friends that I'd met while I was still active duty.
Okay. And then through his many years of military service, that includes 16 years as an Army chaplain, where he deployed to Iraq twice, Afghanistan, Africa, and Kuwait in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. His awards include 3 Bronze Stars and the Purple Heart. David specialized in trauma, combat stress, child loss, and grief counseling. He's a graduate of Welch College, Southeastern Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, the Army Command and General Staff College, U.S. Army Chaplain Basic and Advanced Courses, U.S. Army Military Intelligence Center and School, the Basic Airborne course, and Clinical Pastoral Education. He is the co-author with Dr. Eddie Moody of First Aid for Your Emotional Hurts Veterans, and author of Operation Eternal Freedom. So thank you so much, David, for coming on and agreeing to have this conversation with me. We've been talking about it for a little bit, and Diane is a huge fan, and she's been talking about you ever since I met her, and I just I feel very fortunate to have met you, and really the more I get to know about you, the more clear it is how much of an honor it is to have you on my show. So I really appreciate you being here.
Well, that's totally mutual, not only with Diane. She's an amazing woman and veteran and been through so much and is making a difference, but also I'm honored to be on here with you, and you have your story, and you are being a blessing and making a difference, and really that's what it's all about.
I'd like to get a sense of who you are, where what you come from, some of your experiences that really shaped who you are and put you on the path to what you're doing now. So where were you born and raised, and what were some of your early influences?
Okay. My dad and mom and family. My dad was from West Virginia in the mountains. His grandmother was a Hatfield, if you're familiar with the Hatfield McCoys, and my mom was from Kentucky in the mountains, and so I've definitely got a hillbilly influence. And so my family moved from West Virginia, being in New Jersey for a short time, up to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And my dad's background, he had been an alcoholic and had been in the military, been in the Army for a short time, and left as a buck private because of his drinking issues. And but he found faith in Christ and later joined the ministry. And so he grew up and moved to Indiana and started churches. And so I grew up PK, a preacher's kid, and there in northern Indiana in a hillbilly home. And my older brother, had a serious problem with drugs, and there was a lot of combat in my home. And 17, I ran away from home and joined the Army. And I was, believe it or not, I was military intelligence for 9 years. And I was blessed. I was an E6 when I was 22 and selected for warrant officer, but I felt God was calling me to go into the ministry. So I left with my wife and two small kids at that time and went to Welch College. And I didn't want anything else to do with the military. In fact, when I left Fort Myer outside of DC, I actually changed out of my BDUs into my civilian clothes on the Beltline without even stopping the car. And funny thing is, I'm still driving better than a lot of people in DC, but didn't want anything to do with the military. But once I graduated from Welch College, from Bible College there, I pastored a small church in Clayton, North Carolina. And the interesting thing was I decided I needed to go to seminary because I needed to learn more. But the thing about Clayton, it was only about an hour or so from Fort Bragg. And so all the news of the military, was a constant reminder to me of my own service. And God began to kind of work in my heart. And even though the church was growing and great things were happening, I left in 2000 to go back in the Army as a chaplain. Greatest ministry ever for a chaplain, pastor type, and went into the hospital chaplaincy area a little later on. And then I did 3 of my 4 deployments with 3rd Infantry Division, and was there for the invasion / liberation of Iraq. And then I came back to Iraq later for 15 months. I was an EOD chaplain for all of Iraq, and I was one of those crazy chaplains that jumped out of a few planes and got to blow up stuff all over Iraq. I was always out with my soldiers. And then ended up going through Fort Rucker when I got back from Iraq the second time, to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and went to Afghanistan. And it was a very difficult deployment. Our task force lost like 19 in our area, and I just knew I wasn't going to come home alive. Our little fob in a bad neighborhood we had over 200 rocket attacks in 9 months. And so I was just convinced I was going to die there. And I was okay with that. I mean, it was, by that time, I'd already been officially diagnosed with PTSD. And a lot of it, you mentioned the child loss ministry. When I was at Fort Campbell, most of the chaplains were gone at that time to Iraq. And for 3 years, I handled every trauma, every death, every child loss. And with the babies, several hundred. And so, between that and Iraq and everything, the PTSD, I knew something was wrong. And I was blaming everything on the TBIs because I had multiple traumatic brain injuries by that time. And I remember when I was first diagnosed with PTSD, it was like, the doc said, you have significant depression and significant PTSD. My first thought was, no, I'm a chaplain. I can't have PTSD. I knew I was broken because of the TBIs, but now you're telling me I'm crazy. And one thing I decided to do was to be very public about having PTSD. And that was a blessing. I had young soldiers who would come up to me and say, "Chaplain, thank you." Because if a chaplain can have PTSD, anyone can. And I had battled suicide. And honestly, sometimes those thoughts, will come and go. And went to Fort Benning for the second time. And I was a deputy garrison chaplain and, made that promotion to 05, lieutenant colonel. And then the doctors said, "Hey, it's time. You can't do this anymore." And physically, I was busted. Emotionally, I was busted and I was broken. And so they medically retired me. And it was tough, that transition. The Army and its paperwork said you're no longer fit to continue service as a Army soldier. And my thought was, you made me unfit. I was fit when I joined, but you broke me. But it was tough. And I tell everybody I'm God's sense of humor because I had some friends at the time who were rescuing horses from kill pens. And so I moved to Florida to use horses to do equine therapy with wounded warriors and vets struggling with PTSD. And I also, because of my time as a hospital chaplain, both at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, um, working trauma in Afghanistan with a forward surgical team, and Walter Reed, um, I knew what first responders, um, how they felt so many times. And I was a chaplain for them too. So when I started the Hope Project, I decided it wouldn't only be for vets or active duty military, it'd also be for first responders. Because normally people don't dial 911 just to say hi and see how you're doing. And, especially at my time at Fort Campbell at the hospital there, with all the traumas and deaths, I wanted to reach out to first responders as well. And I didn't know equine meant horse, didn't know anything about horses. And here I am, 6 years later, and we're blessed. So that's my life story. And some of it might be true, like those stories.
So you founded the Hope Project with some of your buddies, and it's grown over the last 6 years. And uh, for those listening that may know, or maybe it's them that are struggling with PTSD, um, they're a veteran first responder. How would they get in touch with you? How do you apply to be
Okay,
be a part of your program?
sure. First of all, everything we do is free. We don't charge anything. And we work with vets and first responders, but we also work with abuse victims, addictions, children with special needs, and to schedule or to set up, to come out and see us and meet us and to meet our horses and our other animals, which just about all rescues like we are. Um, you can contact me. My cell phone is on all the brochures. It's on our website, and it's also on our Facebook. And now I even do little devotional uh, messages on TikTok, so that's kind of cool. But we went from, when we first started to now we're reaching several hundred a month.
Wow.
And it's not just coming and doing formal therapy, which we do, and the horses, I can tell you all about the horses and how that works. But we're also a community of veterans and first responders and others. And one of the things about PTSD that the military has done wrong for so long, and which has been done right in so many other cultures and through history. Um, you know, we can be in Afghanistan one day, and the next day, we can be right here in, near Panama City Beach in Florida. And it's like whiplash. And then you do stuff with the VA, and the VA has some good and some bad, depends on who you talk to. But you're separated and you don't have that tribe, you don't have that community, those battle buddies that you served with and deployed with, and you were willing to die for them, and they were willing to die for you. And we lose so much of that. And we try to handle stuff on our own. And, I can't do this alone, you know, and we need one another. And so we're a community. So just, send me a message, send me an email, text me, call me. We'll set up a time for you to come out and see us and meet us. One cool thing is a chaplain. It's just like a chaplain in the military or so many chaplains that work with our first responders. I have 100% total confidentiality, just like I did active duty. Anything you say is totally between me and you. And sometimes that's a little bit easier than necessarily talking, to someone, um, to a professional, which I encourage that as well. And that's why we work so close with Diane and the Vet Center or the VA or some other counseling services and refer back and forth.
for those that aren't familiar with equine therapy, what does that involve?
Sure. And I say I was God's sense of humor because I didn't know what equine meant. And I didn't know anything about horses. And, I'd had my experiences in the military and deployments and, everything that kind of comes with that. But I was afraid of horses. There were these big animals that I had no control over. And what I found out, it was funny because I knew I wanted to do equine therapy, but I didn't know anything about it. So I just Googled equine therapy, and there's several different equine models, and there's PATH, and that's primary riding for those with disabilities. And I couldn't do PATH because the standards for your horsemanship, for your knowledge of horses, were way above me and my knowledge and experience. And so I ended up going with EGALA, which is an acronym which has to do with equine therapy and learning and all that. And so I became certified, and I say I'm certifiable to work and to do equine therapy, and I'm a member of that. One thing I learned: horses are totally amazing. They read your facial expressions. They read your body language. They can hear your heartbeat 4 feet away, and they know your emotions. So, you can fool a chaplain or a counselor or therapist, whatever, but you can never fool a horse. You can't lie to a horse. Um, and what we do with Igala and what we do at our main ranch at Hope, and we also have some partnerships to do some therapy for riding as well. But what we do is myself and a horse person, an equine specialist, we will give you a task, or a couple, family, or a group, because we do competition. We could get some firefighters out there and put them against the cops or something, doing some competition. But we give you something to do involving the horses, and then myself and the equine specialist, the horse person, we're going to watch the interaction between you and the horses, and maybe take them through an obstacle course, and it's on the ground, mainly what we do. And then afterwards we're going to talk about that interaction, because the horses are going to interact with you based on your emotions and everything going on, and they act differently with different people. It's so amazing. It's like they know what's going on. And then the person, client, whatever, is kind of going to do their own little metaphor or parable using the horses about what's going on in their lives. And it's pretty powerful because you can tell a horse anything and you're safe. And so often it may be you going out and just loving on a horse and let that horse love on you, and just sharing your hurts with that horse, and watching how they react. It's amazing. Because of all my TBIs, I battle headaches and everything, and I've had all the medication that the Army could think of, and didn't work except make me tired where I couldn't finish a sentence. I even tried Botox shots in my head, like 50 of them, and all it did was hurt like crap, and I didn't look like Brad Pitt or you. And but the funny thing is, I get around the horses and the headaches go away.
No
You know?
kidding.
And I've seen that with other vets with back pain, because of injuries and everything. I had one Iraq vet named like 13 horses, one of his soldiers from Iraq. Each one of them were different. And it's pretty cool. I know how they normally act, but they could act totally different with you, you know, contrary to their normal personality. And so it's pretty amazing. And we've had great success with vets, and those like myself struggling with PTSD. Diane is, she went out and got certified in EGALA as well. And so, maybe she could bring you over to the ranch and put you through
Yeah.
a session.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely gonna come out there, and Diane and I have been talking about it for a while now. Uh, we just got to make the time. Um,
I understand totally. And we actually, with either the VA or the vet center, there are times we're seeing the same clients. where the vet center, Diane may be working with one issue, and we're either complementing that or we're working with another issue using equine therapy. And I'm not by any means, anti-medication or anti, the regular accepted means of therapy and counseling, because I see counselors. And so, this is kind of a multidisciplinary approach. And I don't force faith on anyone, just like when I was a chaplain, I don't force faith on anyone. My faith is essential for me in my battles and struggles. But if someone wants to talk about faith, or go there, we'll definitely do that. If they don't, that's fine too.
So I recently had a conversation with somebody where the this came up where we were talking about the different modalities to treat PTSD,
Right.
and there's so many, and I've tried most of them, and it when I was trying to explain it to this person, say, this method worked really well when I was working on this, but then it didn't do a whole lot for this. So, move on and find find that this other modality works really well for this. And I think that what you're talking about, that multidisciplinary approach to healing, uh, I only know my experience and maybe the experience of a few others, but from what I can tell, that is the most effective way to heal, um, is to be open to multiple modalities.
Sure. And PTSD is very personal. And my PTSD is going to be different than yours or anyone else's. I don't even like the term PTSD, but nobody knows what PTS is if I just start talking that way. It's funny, I've had several people say, well, you work with veterans with PSTD. And I said, well, that's a different issue, but sure. you know, but it's, and for me, you know, I believe PTSD is a normal reaction to trauma, to horrible trauma.
Yeah.
And especially with military or first responders, or maybe, with abuse victims who've lived years of abuse and trauma. For me, PTSD is trauma to the soul. And if we don't do some soul work, I think we may end up only treating symptoms.
Yeah.
And so, even my own life, faith is huge, but I talk to counselors. I have one from the VA I talk to, and that helps some. I take my crazy pills. They're not the fix or the answer, but they help a little bit. Maybe take a little of the edge off. And I'm open to other modalities. I meet people all the time and say, "Hey, have you tried this?" And hey, why not? Because it's complex,
Yeah.
and people are complex, and PTSD has been around since the time of Moses, and I believe King David had PTSD, and that's why he self-medicated with Bathsheba. Doesn't make it right. There's no excuse for us to do wrong, but it's been around. Native Americans, the term was the spirit has left him, and you talk about Civil War, which Civil War PTSD was known as soldier's heart. And, to me, that's my favorite definition of PTSD, soldier's heart. And then, you look at shell shock or battle fatigue. And, it's like, I think it was 1980 when it was officially called, post-traumatic stress disorder. And problem is we kind of left everything up to the behavioral health fields. And we didn't create that community, and we didn't take our responsibility to reach out to those who are hurting. And so multidisciplinary, the family, the friends, the buddies, churches, everybody that can, be a blessing to help us along.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up that community aspect. Um, what I've found to be really powerful, and I was just interviewing another person right before this interview, um, who was talking about fellowship. This organization that he's the president of. They bring men together that want to develop as leaders, develop as men, and I guess get healthy. And there it the interview was with this guy Frank Schwartz, who is the president of the F3. I don't know if it's foundation movement, but it's called F3, and it's uh, fitness, fellowship, and faith, and those are the three pillars of that organization. And I thought it was really powerful, not just the fitness or the faith, but the fellowship aspect of it, and how applicable that is to what you were talking about with the tribe aspect of the military, the battle buddies. And like with first responders, day in day out, running calls with your fellow firefighters and law enforcement officers, and you're experiencing the same stuff. You might experience it in a different way, from a different perspective, but you're there together. And in some, I know that betrayal trauma is one thing, and I think that is something that uh, when handed those separation papers, and like, yeah, you're not fit for duty, or you know here, I mean, they do the same thing in the fire service or law enforcement. If you're diagnosed with a mental health issue, you can't work. And that's a real fear about coming clean with what you're struggling with while you're still active. And you can't, like, it's ruined careers. And it's just another form of betrayal, not necessarily like, you cheat on your spouse or something, but you're betrayed by something that you've given so much of yourself to. And you know to be able to get some of that back through communing with fellow veterans or first responders, and being there to, I don't know, just hold space and like go, yeah, I might not have had the same experience as you, but I've felt the same emotions as you.
Definitely. And one of the difficulties for first responders, veterans, I look around and I see behind you, evidence of you being a firefighter. And, if you look around, I've got military stuff, and you'll never be a civilian again. And I'll never be a civilian again. And we're different. And you all run into burning buildings while others run out. We run, we're police officers. I mean, we run towards the fire, and I still would, because that's just how we are. And to be thrown into this strange retirement world, or this strange civilian world, and you're feeling all alone and you're feeling broken, um, and too many will isolate, and too many, the mentality suck it up and drive on. And one of the main reasons we do this is the 22 a day, and we don't know for sure how many veterans every day commit suicide. The numbers go up and down, and we don't know how many are quote accidental overdoses or car accidents. But we need each other. And we I go to the VA nursing home, and we do stuff here at Sims there, and you got World War II vets and Korean War vets and Vietnam vets, and then some of the later ones. And we weren't in the same war. We were maybe 40 years apart in age almost, but there is that commonality where we know what it feels like. And that's why we have first responders that come to Hope. And some of the most serious issues with PTSD that I've ever seen has been first responders, some of their issues, and some of their struggles, and being able to see the healing and to see the progress that's made, not only with them, but we do a lot with military sexual trauma. And you talk about the betrayal. At least I can say, hey, I got hurt in Iraq or Afghanistan, by an enemy. But that kind of betrayal, or some of the other abuse victims we work with, the ultimate betrayal by people who are supposed to protect you, people who are supposed to love you, that you trust. And no wonder the issues are there and the pain is there, but being able to see them come out and maybe be part of a community or start working with the amazing horses. I could take all day long and just tell you story after story after story of people who have met horses who've totally been transformed. And, we stand there and we know these horses and we're just like, wow, did Merida just do that? You know? And it's great, but I think the community is essential. I never left the fob. I never went outside the wire by myself. One thing, I'm unarmed as a chaplain, but we never went alone. No matter what war movies that you might see, and we can't fight this on our own either. We need our buddies, and we need community. We need people we know we can trust that care about us.
For those listening right now that might be in that dark place, that place of isolation and hopelessness, what would you say to them if you were sitting there talking to them right now?
Yeah. I would say, you got to reach out. You can't do this alone, and you shouldn't do this alone. And there are safe ways to get help. And one of the reasons we're called the Hope Project is there's always hope. You're still breathing, and more people care about you and love you than you can ever begin to imagine. And faith-wise, I can tell you God loves you, and where there's God, there's always hope. But definitely reach out. Don't try to do this on your own. We care about you. And I know anytime I read about or hear about someone who has ended their life, I'm devastated. I've lost soldiers and others in a lot of different ways. Yes, in combat, yes, cancer, motorcycle accidents, training accidents, heart attacks. But I've lost way too many to suicide. And I can tell you, losing a soldier or a family member or a buddy to suicide is far worse than losing one, in a fire or, because I've seen what it does to others. I have helped pick up the bodies. I have done the services. I've been with the units. I even at one time, I had to show the parents where the kid shot himself because they wouldn't believe it. And they demanded to see, one of the things that stops me when I'm in a dark place is I could not do that to my family. I could not do that to my buddies. I could not do that to the person who'd have to find me, because I've done that several times. And it's not fair for me to put my pain on others who don't deserve it. So it's far better I live with my pain than put that on others. And the thing is, I don't have to just live with my pain. there's help out there.
Chaplain, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me, to share with me, to share your story. Uh, I know the people listening, without fail, anytime I have one of these conversations, I get emails, and
Mm.
the fact that you've established this resource for veterans and first responders and children and victims of military sexual trauma, like this, what a phenomenal resource. And I would urge e- everyone listening to go to your website. I'll have the link in the show notes. Go to the website, connect with you, at least make yourself aware of this resource, because you might come in contact with somebody that needs that one piece of information to make it through whatever crisis they're in right now. So
I'm very blessed, and there's a reason my cell phone is on our website. It's on Facebook. It's on all of our brochures. Because if there is that person in a dark place, I'm a chaplain. I'm still a chaplain. And call me. You can put it out on your podcast. That's totally, call me. I will answer. I will listen, and I will help if I can. Um, don't do this alone. The Lone Ranger and the suck it up, drive on hardcore, that doesn't work. A couple of years ago, one of the special forces soldiers, he'd had multiple, like 12, 15 deployments, took his life. And his nickname was Captain America. And I had talked with him and counseled with him and, yes, prayed with him, and years before in Afghanistan. And that's a devastating loss, you know, um, devastating to so many people. And it's unnecessary, you know. But thank you to all of our vets, and thank you to all of our first responders. Y'all are my heroes as well. And thank you for this opportunity. And if it helps one person, it's well worth it. So thank you for all you do and what you're doing.
on my website, I have a resources page for mental health resources, and I will actually link this episode on that page along with the link to your website, so that when people are checking out that page, um, they'll be able to watch this episode, to listen to it, or go through your website, connect with you on social media. I'm assuming that the links to your social media accounts are on your website.
Yes, they should be.
I'll make sure that this this gets out there, because what a valuable resource. So thank you again.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of From Embers to Excellence. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on your favorite podcast platform, and visit hollenbachleadership.com for additional content. My goal is and always will be to add value to as many people as possible. So if I can be of any assistance to you or someone you know, please connect with me via email or on one of my social media accounts, linked on the homepage of my website. Remember, our failures don't define us unless we let them, and the only true measure of a leader is the success of their team.